Para la luego la grabación, todavía creo que el vídeo no lo tenemos activo. No te preocupes, esto es voluntario. Yo creo
Hello, Denise. Where are you?
I'm in Madrid at home.
Oh, okay. I would have guessed by the stylish white behind you, you would be in Italy.
No, I'm in Madrid, but it's very hot today, and tonight there is the final match.
Yes,
of the Euro Cup.
Go Italy. I'm totally rooting for Italy. I think it's going to be tough. England has got all those stars, you know, but we'll see. Plus, it's in England. That's not fair either.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it starts right at 9, right? So
Yeah.
That's a good timing.
Perfect
timing. Argentina won. I was happy about that too. Argentina won.
Yeah, I saw it.
People still arriving, I guess.
there's something wrong with the doorbell.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not hearing it.
Oh dear, it's probably just a battery. I think it's just a battery operated one. So the battery's probably dead. I don't think it's hardwired in. And I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it probably just needs a battery at some point. Maybe I'll put that on the Sala WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Maybe you can write knock, you know, the old-fashioned way. Are they both out? Is the other entrance out as well? Carlos, do you know?
The other entrance has the shutters down, so sure.
Right.
So people are still arriving.
I see that. Better late than never, as they say. How hot is it there? Is it in the 30s, high 30s, or?
It was supposed to be like 40, 41 today, but it got quite cloudy, or I don't know. It's yeah, okay. So Damien's saying that it reached 41 today.
Oh dear, that's too hot. Do you have the AC on?
Thanks for AC, yeah.
Okay, it's working.
It's working. Yeah. All right, I think we can start, Jim, whenever you want.
Okay. Well, welcome to Sala Dana. Sala Dana Virtual. I thought maybe I would offer a couple techniques that we can use to help us drop in, help us ground ourselves into the body, into the present moment. I'm going to just change, pin myself for the YouTube. And these are kind of techniques that I've been sort of experimenting with. They may work for you and they may not. One of them I like to use is to just remind myself to just be and not do. I imagine in Spanish it's just ser, right? And in the posture to just feel the posture and then just imagine just being, or you could almost say be the posture, just be. And I find that sometimes gets me out of the thinking mind when I mind myself just to be. Another one, maybe a little more nuanced, is to pull back your consciousness or your awareness, your perception to a place of I am. Okay, like where am I? Where am I perceiving from? And that also can kind of get you out of the thinking mind, get you out of having to do anything, and instead you're just observing, the observador, right? And I heard this actually from a Vedanta non-dualist teacher by the name of Rupert Spira that I like very much. And it's just that sense of I am, which is similar to the to be, right? Just be, I am. And then another one that is probably more Zen is to think of your mind as empty and then just reside, or what would be the word? Like reside or hogar. That's not the right word in Spanish I want, but it's kind of like make ourselves comfortable, you might say, in this emptiness, this spaciousness, this openness. And again, not get too worried about trying to do anything, including follow the breath. Just more trying to be. So those three, just be, I am, or sense of I am, or emptiness, or the mind is, empty, openness. So I thought I would offer those at the beginning, and whatever works for you to help you center yourself, ground yourself in the present moment. Okay, so I don't have a bell here, but I will use my phone. So let's start with a comfortable posture. So we're going to meditate for about 30 minutes. And in the Zen tradition, or at least as I understand it from reading Suzuki Roshi, an important teacher who went to the United States and founded the San Francisco Zen Center, it's about sitting, it's about practicing. Just sit. And don't worry too much about the philosophy. Don't worry too much about the teachings. Don't worry too much about doing anything. Just sit. So here we're sitting, and we want to know we're sitting, right? We want to be aware of the sitting body. So we can do that by feeling or experiencing the body. We can do a quick body scan, maybe starting from the feet, just feeling our feet, our legs, our buttocks, sit bones, noticing where there's points of contact. Feeling the trunk of the body, the torso. Maybe noticing the body's moving as it breathes. It's almost like we're a third person. We're an observer of this body, of this mind body. Just watching it, noticing any sensation, experiencing any sensation. Maybe we notice the hands. Your hands might be on your lap, on your knees, just feeling them. Your arms, maybe there's some movement of air, especially in Saladana with the air conditioning. You might notice that. The shoulders, maybe a little sense of weight at the shoulders, or maybe there's some tension. Maybe you can even lift them up and just kind of let them drop. Squeeze that tension out of there. The neck, maybe giving your head a little movement. Loosen the neck up a little bit. And the head, the face, the jaw. And if your jaw is tight or clenched, you can just give it a wiggle, open it up, let it drop. And you can come back to your body anytime, not only during the meditation, but anytime during the day, and experience the sensation in the body, which is how we experience. The mind without the body wouldn't have much to entertain it. It would not be much experience. All comes through the body. So you could come back to the body. This could be your home base, your anchor. And so when the mind wanders off, when the mind gets lost in thought, when we realize that, we can come back to an object. And as we get more practiced and a little calmer, sometimes the object will just be the lack of thought. It'll just be this sense of stillness, this sense of emptiness. But meanwhile, we can use the body, or we can use the breath. Very common object for our meditation is the movement of the body, the movement of the breath. Following the breath, being curious about the breath, feeling the breath, maybe picking a spot where you really can experience the breath well, easily, maybe with a little pleasant sensation. The nose, the chest, the belly. And if neither the body or the breath is working for you today and you want a different object, you can use sounds or the process of hearing. Maybe in Saladana, the air conditioning, I'm not sure, but it might have a slight sound and you can just listen. Try not to interpret. Try not to make up any stories about it, but just notice that you're listening. Know that you're listening. Be aware that you're hearing sounds and just let them come. can be a very receptive form of meditation, very calming. And if you want other techniques besides the ones I mentioned before the meditation, you can use labels to track your experience. Breathing in, breathing out, sensing, thinking, returning, whatever little one word labels, etiquetas will help you, support you. If you're following the breath, you can count. Maybe count your exhalations up to 5. Start again. If you get lost, start again. So let's just practice, not with too much effort. If there's a lot of thought, it's okay. Just let it play out. Keep trying to come back to your object, but don't push away the thought. Just return to your object again and again. The mind eventually figures it out, and it'll stay a little longer. We don't want to struggle. We want to just rest or reside in this luminous, open, spacious mind. If you notice that there is a lot of thought, maybe some anxious thought or some planning thought, what I often do is drop into the body and feel around in my torso, especially the chest, the belly, searching really for any sensation in the body that might be connected or contributing to that thought. Nervousness, anxiety. And then just feel whatever's present in the body. Experience it, notice it with the mind. And I find that often calms down the thinking mind, relaxes the thinking mind, and it tends to quiet down. Not forever, but for a while. If you are still experiencing lots of insistent thought, you might try one of those techniques I mentioned at the beginning, just saying to yourself, just be, just be, just sit there and be a human being or a posture, a meditator. That's not important, but just be. Don't try to do anything. Or maybe you can find that place where you, whatever you might be, whatever we are, from where we perceive, from where we observe, and just try to reside in that place and observe, hearing sounds, even looking. With your eyes closed, you can even look into the back of your eyelids. That gives a very strong sense of looking from me or I, setting aside any Buddhist belief about whether there's a self or not, just being in that place of perception, that place of observation. Or you can remind yourself that the mind is empty and just reside in that emptiness. And if your mind is a little more centered, a little calmer, a little more spacious, and you want to try an open awareness, like a vipassana style of noticing the comings and goings, the impermanent nature, or you can continue samatha, but let it be with whatever arises, whatever is most obvious, most prominent. Let that be your object. Let the mind rest on that. Relax into that, whether it's sensation in the body, could even be pain or sound or the breath or even thought, although thought generally doesn't stick around too long when you cast the light of awareness on it. Whatever's most obvious, let that be your object. Just rest the mind, rest the attention on that. Going from one thing to the other without preference, without opinion. So wherever your mind has been, no importa, let's return to the body, regrounding, reconnecting the mind and the body. Maybe you notice new sensations, maybe the feet or the legs, the knees are a little tight or sore. You just feel the body. And then if you're willing, bring your attention to your heart center. Feel that area. And you can take this moment to thank yourself for your practice. Thank yourself for taking time out on this Sunday to take care of yourself in this way, as well as strengthen your mindfulness, strengthen your mental capacities to deal with life as it is. Maybe also reminding yourself that this may seem like a solitary practice, but we do it for all beings as well as ourselves. And maybe with that thought, we can imagine just sending out goodwill in all directions to all beings, all living things, hoping for the best, wishing everyone the best. And when you hear the sound of the bell, which today is going to come out of my phone, just notice what comes up. Any thoughts, any feelings, maybe, oh, it came too quick, or finally, whatever it might be. Just being with things as they are. Well, thank you all very much for practicing with us. Lara's gonna go. It's interesting. It took me really right up until we got started to kind of feel inspired to talk about something, anything. And I'm not exactly sure what is going on with my practice, but I've so just fallen in love with the meditation itself that I've stopped spending so much time studying like I used to. And what's been interesting, I've been reading, I'm just about finished with, I think you can see it. This is Beginner's Mind, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki Roshi, who I mentioned. And he is very much, I think I even highlighted something that I find quite helpful, especially where I'm at right now. It's like, okay, see if I can find it. Okay, here's a line that's quite helpful. This is in Spanish, so I will read it in Spanish, and then I will try to translate it. But for those of you who know Spanish better than me, you can correct me if I'm not right. He says, "No trates de detener tu mente. Déjalo todo como está." So don't, as I understand this, don't try to stop the mind. Just leave it be as it is, or as things are. And the more I practice, and and I am still studying and listening to other people's opinions and stuff, but it really seems to be that kind of summarizes really what so many teachers of so many different types, Tibetan, Mahayana, as this is, or Vipassana, Theravada, it's very much about letting things be as they are. And because, now this is an opinion, this is a point of view, and possibly verifiable, but because the mind's true nature is empty or luminous or spacious or calm or still, any one of these things, when we allow the mind to be as it is, well, then this is what it's going to be, right? It's going to be calm. It's going to be spacious. It's going to be luminous. I think that's more of a Tibetan word, but it's like some people call it the open sky, the sky-like nature of the mind. Imagine the sky, right? It just goes forever. Seems like it just, and maybe it does, goes to infinity. We don't know how far it goes, but it's huge. And the mind is the same. There's no walls. There's no finiteness to it. It's just para siempre, right? It's just out there. And so when we let it be as it is, we don't struggle with it, we don't try to stop it, we don't try to change it, we don't have an agenda, then it will come around to its true nature. Right? There's another, there's so many. This book is so amazing. I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the best little books, not a thick book, that we can get on meditation and on practice. Is this beginner's mind, Zen mind, beginner's mind. Let's see, where was that other one I liked? Okay. He says, en realidad, el vacío mental ni siquiera es un estado mental, sino la esencia original de la mente. Es la esencia original de la mente. It's the original essence. Okay, this is, again, talking, it's a lot about not trying, not grasping, and I'm going to refer back to dependent origination. I have it up on my computer just to show you how the Buddha kind of explains this, the conditionality of all things. But here's another quote from Suzuki Roshi. Cuando trates de alcanzar la iluminación, tu mente sufre una gran carga. And I'm assuming carga in this sentido is like a burden. It's like a responsibilidad that's just too much, too heavy, right? And in Suzuki Roshi's perspective, which he's of a long lineage, maybe 1,000 years of lineage, I think, is the illumination, or the enlightenment, which we sometimes call it, or liberation, is already here. It's already present before we notice it, before we actually get to that place where we realize it. It already is present. Our problem is that we can't see it. We can't experience it because there's all this other stuff. And so maybe I'm going to try to share screen. Let me make sure I know where this thing is. Give me 1 second. There we go. So now I'll go back to you guys. I'm just going to share this screen here. So these are kind of my notes, but dependent origination by some people is considered to be the real unique thing that the Buddha offered. It was something that had not been done. And he outlines in these 12 steps how we go from ignorance, the very first one here, to suffering, the last one. And it's very precise, right? I almost feel like you could just go from ignorance to suffering. You don't need to have all the stuff in the middle, but he explains how we get there. And some of these words, you might be familiar with, but like the very second link in this dependent in origination is sankharas, or mental formations. These are our ideas. These are our beliefs. These are our thoughts. These are our preferences. These are all these things that go on in our mind. And they're influenced by a montón of things, right? How we were raised, the culture we live in, our schools, our friends, the politics, and they may very possibly also be even influenced by our DNA, by our parents' experience and our ancestors. And if there's prior lives, by prior lives. There's so many things that go into it that cause us to think the way we do. And to give you a little example of this, so right now I'm in Paris. I say that with some hesitancy because I don't want to create any envy. It's also quite a bit cooler here. It's 25, or 21. It's not 40 at all. But I heard about a yoga and meditation studio in the Mare. And so I was excited to go check it out, and I go check it out, and they're getting ready for a class. And I start talking to the man who is at the desk, right? He speaks good English. I speak hardly any French. And I ask him, do you need to wear a mask for the class? And he says, absolutely not. We don't wear masks here. The whole thing is a hoax. It's a brainwash. He went on then a rant about how the vaccine is a lie and how COVID is a lie. He never got it. And so therefore, if people were just healthy like him, they wouldn't get it. And, and I have to say, I didn't just listen and then go, thank you very much, and leave. I actually pushed back a little bit, in fact, quite a bit. But this is an example of his causes and conditions, right? The conditions of his life, his belief systems, and etc., leading to him to have firm beliefs that COVID is not real. It's just like the flu, and we don't need to be vaccinated, right? So that would be an example of the first one, these mental formations, which in my opinion, this is my opinion, but are coming from ignorance, right? To me, this man is ignorant of the way things are. And he was quite sure he wasn't, though. I know, he said, I know. I'm like, okay, you're a clerk in a yoga store and you know, okay. But I tried to be as nice as I could and also firm, but It didn't go very far. Okay, so now the next one, consciousness. This one is almost kind of scary, right? But this is that place that I was telling you about where we can kind of back into that sense of I am. Okay, we're backing into, I mean, the way I call it backing into, because I feel like I'm kind of pulling my awareness kind of into a deeper place in my mind that we can call consciousness. Perception. Perception is slightly different, but that's where it feels like. From that area, I'm perceiving consciousness. But even consciousness is conditioned. Even consciousness can be confused. Even consciousness can see things wrongly. And there's a quote here that I like very much. This is from a writer from the early 1900s. And Nin, she was actually French, Cuban, spent a lot of time in the United States. But her quote is, "We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are." Right? And this is so important to remember, is we're constantly projecting out our beliefs, subconscious, many of them are subconscious. We don't even know we have them. And we're projecting them out onto the world in anticipation of how we're going to experience things. This is how the mind works. The mind is constantly anticipating what's next. And it's anticipating to protect itself, to survive. Is this going to be good to eat? Yummy. Okay. Or is this person going to be good to mate with? Or is this a danger? Do I need to run? And it can't do it in real time, so it does it a little bit beforehand, and then it projects it out. And so a lot of times the mind will think, oh, this is the same as some other event that happened, and it'll project that same expectation onto the present moment, but it'll be totally off. So even consciousness is conditioned. And then the Buddha goes through and he talks about these different things, nama rupa, name and form. We immediately are, we're constantly, even if you're doing the hearing meditation, you probably found it quite difficult to not name whatever it is you're hearing. The mind wants to name it. Oh, okay, air conditioning, street noise, Jim's voice, it's just part of the process of the mind. It's just what it does. We have our senses. In Buddhism, we have 6 sense bases, 5 that we are our physical sense bases, and then the 6th one is the mind, the door to the mind. We have contact. We make contact with something through the senses. There's a feeling tone, and we've talked about this, Vedana, right? Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And then we get to craving, which craving works in 2 different ways. Craving is we want it, or craving is we crave for it to go away, right? It's just the opposite of the same coin. And that causes grasping, clinging, holding on. And then this is where it gets a little bit, kind of difficult for us Westerners to kind of understand. But this creates a sense of self, becoming, it's called, where I start to believe that I, Jim, want this thing, or that this thing is me, or that if I have it, it will fulfill me. And then there's a big sense of me, of selfing, we can call it in English, selfing, amakara, I think is the Pali word. And it's what causes us to really suffer. So birth could be birth as a rebirth, or it's the birth of the self again. And really what we're talking about here is ego, right? Since when has our ego been present, you might say, or in control, and then we didn't suffer? It's very rare, right? The ego almost always suffers, causes us to suffer. And that's the final one, number 12, is suffering. And even suffering, this is so right here, suffering is conditioned. Suffering doesn't just happen. It happens because of all these things that preceded it. They come together and then they cause us to suffer. And so these teachings like by Suzuki Roshi and these others are trying to lead us, point us in the direction of non-suffering. And, you know, I heard this on a YouTube of a lecture by a professor from Rutgers, some big university in the United States. And he was talking about yoga. He was talking about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And he was an expert apparently in that time period and the Yoga Sutras. And he said the intention of the Yoga Sutras, what Patanjali tried to bring together of all the Indian teachings, was how to reduce our suffering, how to stop our suffering. Same as Buddhism. And Buddhism was around already by that point, a couple, 200-300 years. And it was about stopping suffering. How do we do that? According to the Yoga Sutras, is still the mind, quiet the mind. Because it is in the mind where all those things happen in that list. And so if we can just rest in the present moment with the mind that is open, the mind that is luminous, the mind that is like the sky, then we're not going to suffer. Those things are not going to arise. And that's basically, you know, and I might be way oversimplifying it, but that's kind of in a nutshell why we practice. And if we are able to have those moments, you know, and sometimes there's more than a few, but even for just a short time, it can have transformative benefits. And my experience is that they accumulate. It isn't like it has to be constant. So because it's impossible unless you're in jhana, you know, deep meditation. The mind is just going to keep doing what it does. It's going to get called out to other things. You know, there's going to be contacts, sense doors, and craving and all that kind of stuff. But we can get stillness. We can have stillness for a little bit. You know, then it thinks, get lost a little bit, but then we come back. And all of this can accumulate. And the sum of these periods of calm, these periods of stillness, will reduce our suffering. And in fact, you know, really can lead to some happiness and lead to an open heart, lead to a compassionate heart. And so I think this is why we do it, and this is what I've been doing. And you know, one of the there's this dependent origination, 12 links. Excuse me. And then the next 12 links is called liberative arising. So this is how we go from suffering and then we end up liberation. And some of those steps are things like disenchantment, dispassion. These things, we start to realize that studying, you know, reading, even learning Pali, all these kinds of things are not necessarily going to lead to my liberation and happiness. Maybe I thought that would, but after a while, we realize, no, it's the practice that does it. And you know, that was the one quote I wanted to get from Suzuki Roshi, and I guess maybe I didn't highlight it in yellow to see it. See if I can find it. I mean, you could sort of believe me, or you can believe me that he said it as well. Okay, let's see if this one will work here. No, not exactly. Yeah, sorry. he says it repeatedly, and I guess because it's repeated so many times, I haven't bothered to highlight it for a while. Okay, well here's something that kind of points in this direction. I like it. See what time we're doing. I know those of us who want to watch the football match, don't worry, we will quit on time. He says, simplemente siéntate. Simplemente siéntate. Sin intentar obtener nada y con la atención más pura. Permanecer tan aquietados como nuestra naturaleza original. Esta es nuestra práctica. Permanecer tan aquietados como nuestra naturaleza original. So it's just sit quietly, and don't worry, don't force yourself to list, to follow the breath, or don't push those thoughts away. Just keep coming back to whatever your object is. And it could be the body, it can be the breath, it can be sounds. If you have another, you can even use a mantra if you like using mantras, but we just come back to that quiet, to that stillness, to our natural state. This is our pure state. And the mind is flexible. It will train. It will get it. Oh, okay. And then, a thought will come. And then, same thing. As soon as we realize it, we might not realize it for a while, or it might be important. Maybe you do need to think it out. Or maybe you want to fantasize a little bit. 2-0 Italy or whatever. So you might spend a few moments. It's okay. Okay, and then you come back. The worst thing we want to do is fight with our mind. We don't want to do that. We just don't. We don't want to fight with those thoughts. That will get us nowhere. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Is there anybody who would like to say something or have a question or want to share? Carlos.
So there's a question from Sala.
Okay.
I don't use to meditate. I recommend it because I try to meditate.
She tries to meditate.
Okay.
And it's difficult. How do you know that you are doing right? Day by day, how do you know? How do you feel if you do right?
Okay. Are you, when you try to meditate, are you sitting in a meditative posture?
In this case, she was sitting on a chair.
Okay, well, that's fine. Chairs work. So literally, if you take time out of your day, you turn off your phone or you set it aside and you sit in a chair and you just observe your thoughts for a minute, 15 minutes, you are meditating. You've done it.
If you meditate, you feel better, no? Your suffering is less.
Yes, now maybe not right away, maybe not the first 10 times or even the first 100 times will you notice that it's less. It takes a little bit of time because it isn't like a magic potion, right? It isn't like a magic pill that's suddenly going to bring us ecstasy. It is gradual, but most people within a month, 1 month, they start to see an improvement. They start to see less suffering. But to expect it in a day or a week, you're probably not going to see it yet. So you have to have a little bit of faith, a little bit of belief that this is going to work. And then give it some time. And then with this question that you have about whether you're doing it right or, whether you're doing it right, don't worry about that. Just sit whether it's in a chair or whether it's on the floor, and observe. Observe your body, observe your thoughts, observe your mind, and you will be meditating, and that will be sufficient. And if you have a thought, oh, am I doing it right? You just observe that thought. Oh, interesting. I had that thought, or my mind had that thought.
So all the time you don't have to think about the result.
If your mind wants to think, let it think. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If it thinks, you know, sometimes the mind has to do what it has to do, and it might be an important thing, or it might be a deep habit. We don't want to force it. But when you notice you're thinking, if you can, come back to your object. Did you try with the breath, or did you have an object when you tried at home? Una ancla or un objeto or algo?
It's difficult for me because I think I sometimes have to try 10 minutes for a week, 2 weeks, more or less, and I find some change in me. I feel a little better. I would like to try to do more, but it's difficult. Perhaps if you do it for a long time, it's like as you ride a bicycle, and the first is difficult, but at the end it's better, it's easier.
That's a very good analogy. Riding a bicycle is a very good analogy. Very good example. And you're right. Once we kind of got it on the bike, then we start to go without any effort. Without any effort. But the important thing is to get on the bike. If you never get on it, you will never learn. And the same with the meditation. The important thing is to sit. Siéntate. Pick a spot, sit there 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Just sit. And whatever happens, don't worry about what's going to happen. Try not to worry about that. Just sit for 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes if you're willing, but at least 15 minutes, and then just to see what happens. Observe your mind. Observe what goes on, and do it if you can, you know, maybe twice a day, but especially in the morning if you can. And then just like the bicycle, it might start to get easier, and then you might start to feel some of the benefits. But give it a little bit of time. But it sounds like you're doing the right thing. You're doing it correctly.
Carmen also wants to ask.
Okay, if you can translate to me, I prefer to speak English, Spanish.
Okay, I'll translate for Carmen.
Well, okay.
Cuando empecé a meditar, yo tenía pues como un concepto como un poco edulcorado de lo que es la meditación, un concepto un poco infantil quizás.
So Carmen had like a romanticized concept of what meditation is when she started.
Okay.
Porque claro, a mí me habían vendido que la meditación te daba la paz, la tranquilidad, la armonía, etcétera. Y claro, yo empezaba a meditar y primero, figura estática, sin moverme. A mí me encanta estar moviéndome todo el día, con lo cual yo me sentía muy inquieta estando en esa postura que no me podía mover.
Jim, are you getting it, or do you need me to translate? Or?
Yeah, I think most of it, except the very last sentence, I couldn't get her
So
here.
she was feeling very like unrestful. She was because she's used to moving around a lot. So
Yep.
when sitting down and being still, that was quite hard for her.
Okay.
Y después, they said, well, feel your mind. Y muchísimos pensamientos más negros, más importantes, menos importantes. Yo de paz no tenía nada. Eso que yo creía que me daba la meditación,
Bueno.
no lo alcanzaba.
Yeah.
Después ya, siente tu cuerpo, siente tu corazón. Y me entraban miedos, soledad, angustias. Es verdad que luego después, con el tiempo, había como un espacio más espaciosa la mente, más claridad, y ahí sí que había como un rayo de luz, quizás. Entonces yo creo que la meditación es un camino que no es un camino de rosas, es un camino de rosas con espinas, porque hay que pasar la noche oscura muchas veces para llegar a esa tranquilidad de la que tanto se habla. Es mi experiencia. It's my experience. I don't know if you understood me.
Okay. Okay, ¿tienes una pregunta o solo quiere reflejar? Reflejar.
Pues que,
Reflexionar.
pues que quizás yo tenía la idea de que la meditación era armonía y la meditación es estar en el momento que uno está.
Exactamente.
Observar y hacer espacio. Y yo hasta ahora es lo que
Pero al
consigo.
final nos ha ayudado a limpiar todo esas angustias y todo, tenía que salir, ¿no?
Hombre, sí, y entonces, claro, sí, al observarlo, no lo digo.
Claro, pero
Hago espacio.
está como que la meditación te ayuda a aceptar porque tienes
Chicas.
que necesitar luz
Yep.
cada vez más.
Sí, claro, sí.
Okay, why don't we, because I want to end right at 1:45. I know Denise wants to watch the football and so do I. And you guys can continue to talk, but just my reaction is Carmen is basically what I heard and understood is that's correct. You know, it is very much about being in the present moment, being with things as they are. And sometimes the way they are is a lot of dark thoughts and a lot of thinking, and that's just the way it is. And if we fight those, they will persist. If you fight with your thoughts, there's going to be other thoughts, and you'll never get out of that loop. So we really want to just be with it is with as much kindness as we can, as much compassion as we can, as much acceptance as we can. And then they will, in my experience, and then, you know, many people I know, they start to calm down. They start to become nicer. I mean, I see this in my life where I used to be always unhappy, and then I transmitted it to other people, and then I could see how they would react to me. And that happens so much less. And I know it's because of this meditation, because I'm not fighting with myself, and therefore I don't project that out onto other people. But it takes time. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of practice.
Are you happy now? ¿Eres feliz ahora?
Can you hear her? She's
No, I
asking
didn't
if you're
hear.
happy now. Are you happy now, Jim? She's asking.
I am ecstatic. But, you know, not just for the meditation, but I mean, I have so much luck and stuff in my life. I have such luck, you know, really. I mean, I'm in Paris. Come on, I'm in Paris and I'm doing nothing. So it's kind of hard to not be happy. Although the first time I came here 45 years ago or 40 years ago, I was miserable the whole time. I was miserable. So yeah, I promise if you stay with it, it will get better. It just will. The problem is we stop. We got to watch out our thoughts. I mean, even having a thought of romantic, you know, meditation is romantic. That can get in the way. We want to try not to have expectativas. We want to try not to have preconceived notions. They're difficult, but we try to just let it be as it is with curiosity, interest, investigation, you know, an open mind as much as you can. So why don't we, oh boy, Denise, if you want to leave, and we still have 15 minutes, but I'll do I'll lead us in a metta, and then those of you who need to leave can leave, and I'll stay on a few more minutes afterwards and we can talk. But let's do a little metta for those who are new. So this is a type of meditation where we use phrases. It's almost like praying in a way. So we use these phrases, and they're designed to offer goodwill to ourselves and other people, to offer happiness even to ourselves and other people. So we usually do 4 groups, and we'll start with I, me, you, us. So I'll say a phrase and then you can repeat it mentally to yourself. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. May life be easy. So now in this second group, we want to bring to mind somebody, or it could be an animal, somebody we really love without any question. We love or admire this person, a benefactor, benefactora, we call it. So imagine they're right in front of you. Let's offer them metta, goodwill. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And now this next group is the difficult person. So this may be a little harder, and it also could even be your own mind. If you're having trouble with your mind is being difficult, you can even include your mind in this group. But imagine something or somebody where got a little problem with them, a little resentment, a little hurt. You bring them to mind, offer them metta. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And then finally, we'll do all beings without exception, all life even. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And then finally, the tradition often followed in sanghas like this, communities like ours, we offer up, we renounce the benefits that we have received today, the teachings, our Sangha, our Buddha nature. We offer these up to the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence and discrimination, racism, and hopefully free from coronavirus. And may all beings find their practice that leads to the end of suffering, find their path, find their true nature, which is spacious, voluminous, illuminous, and free. May all beings be free. I don't have a bell. Where can I make this thing do something? Oh, there it is. Okay, well, thank you all. Sorry we're 5 minutes late, but like I said, I'm happy to talk a little bit more if somebody from Saladana wants to continue on that conversation. Laura, thank you so much for coming. I hope you're well, and yeah, all of you. And if nobody, has any more comment, I'm happy.